Places we go during the after hours. I'm talking like bars and clubs and the likes. How are they surviving last year and this one? Did they have to operate as usual, or maybe they had to get a little bit more creative? We'll find out with Jennifer and Miss Jessie Chahel as they speak to our distinguished guests about bringing back the bar industry, especially bringing the entire bar industry back together. What has to happen next? Roger Hugh, owner of the Brewhouse Group, and Dax Lee, owner of The Group, will be bracing our screens for the next 45 minutes as we find out exactly what is next for the industry.
Thank you, Kevin. Welcome back to our studio. I'm Jennifer Ong.
And I'm Jessie Chahel.
Our topic for the restaurant and bar segment is about bringing the bar industry back together and what to expect next in this very challenging sector.
Well, it seems fairly clear that this era will be defined in terms of COVID-19 between the old world and the new world. How exactly will this new world look like is still unknown, as we're still living in the survival and partial lockdown mode. City restaurant and bars are closing down at every juncture at a very worrying rate. A few episodes of sudden announcements of the CMCO within the Klang Valley has left many restaurant and bar businesses, big or small, scrambling for solutions while waiting for the clarity on SOPs. The question now is, how will the restaurant and bar sectors recover? Joining us for this dialogue session is Roger Hugh, owner of the Brewhouse Group, and Dax Lee, owner of the group, who will be talking about how to bring the restaurant and bars industry back together as we head into or onto the road to recovery. So welcome, Roger. Welcome, Dax. Thank you so much for being with us today. Jen?
Yes, that's right. Thank you so much for joining us. I can see, the brew house is expanding. It has been, the bars and the restaurant business and the industry has really been having a very, very tough time. But what is actually Brew House doing, with all this expansion?
Okay, thank you, Jennifer and Jessie, for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here today. So basically, we were hit by the pandemic. The lockdown came as a shock to us. First time in our lives that we have to undergo such lockdown that we didn't know was going to last for 1 month or 2 months. But thank God we had a good cash flow to sustain the lockdown. So for every lockdown that we undergo, we lose about 2-3 million ringgit. We had to pay the landlords, we had to pay salaries, we had to ensure the staffs have meals, a place to stay, and all that.
So does that then come down or boil down to the survival of the fittest? Because you've got stalls and kiosks that sell food, and then you've got restaurants and chains as well.
Exactly, yeah.
The big boys versus
That's right.
the smaller players,
boys,
right?
That's right.
What does it boil down to? Because I'm quite intrigued. Financial analysts, economists, they look at a crisis and say, well, there's always a silver lining. There is opportunity in adversity. But how do you find that? Is it an elusive line, or is that a strategy? Because right now you're expanding.
I think the pandemic was a surprise to us. And then basically, we grew quite fast. We wanted to expand to the suburbs. We knew that people were now working at home, so they were no longer in the city. So we moved on to the suburbs, grew in the suburbs. I think planning expansion plans where we want to be ready for the future, and how we engage with the market there.
Right.
So we want to bring freshly cooked food at affordable pricing to all the customers.
So that was the new strategy on your side, right?
Yeah, that's right.
What about you, Dax? I mean, how the group has got restaurants and bars, and how's the roof doing?
Hi guys, sorry, I just managed to catch the last two.
Right, I think Dax is having
So, real quickly, I apologize.
Right. Okay, we've got Dax here. All right. So Dax, we were just asking about, how are things on your side? You've got the roof and you've got restaurants and bars under the brand of roof. How has it been for you?
Well, I think in recent times, in the last 1 month, business actually has gone up quite significantly. I think it's a combination of people being a bit cooped up too long, and it might be a bit of a revenge spending. We had a talk internally among the management team that we hope this is not the storm before the calm, the opposite of the famous saying, that people are worried that there might be a third lockdown with the numbers spiking, so they want to go out before they get shut down in their house again.
Right.
But with regards to the industry, I think, especially with the HAPA members, no address members, a lot of us here are pretty hardy and seasoned operators. We are a close-knit community. We share ideas on how to comply with the SOPs. We share ideas on how to address the new norms. I believe for the most part, you will find the seasoned players still around. Although there will be casualties given the pandemic, but I think, as long as you are nimble, as long as you are very sensitive on the costs and able to adapt, you should be able to get through this sooner, hopefully, rather than later. But that being said, of course, it doesn't come without any pain. It is a struggle.
That's right. No pain, no gain.
Yes.
Well, Dex, what have you realized to be the most significant change now in the new norm for the F&B industry here in Malaysia?
Well, to be frank, I think the theory is that, of course, or the theory or the general stereotype is that, of course, you have reduced sittings, you have social distancing, you've got more emphasis placed on cleanliness, cleaning up, wiping up after each guest. For us, the roof, we've invested in proprietary tech that allows us to sanitize all our venues at an extremely cheap cost. We invested in this American tech, whereby we can afford to fog our venue twice a day before we open and after we close. It is a safe green tech, so that has helped us. It has actually helped us with our internal customers. So our staff feels more confident, our staff feels happier, and I think that translates into better service, and the customers feel better, and that peace of mind, and they come back. But as I was saying, these are all things that I think most of us in the industry are complying with. But I think the challenge is not in what should we do. The challenge is not what we are currently doing. The challenge really, unfortunately, I'll try to sound as politically correct as possible, is the political situation with regards to how the alcohol-based industries are viewed. I think it's a bit tougher regulations, or perhaps I want to be careful with the words I use. Perhaps certain segments of the industry are being treated a little harder and tougher than most. However, from what I've observed, it is actually the seasoned players and the experienced players that are complying the most. We are doing the most that we can. In fact, I believe if any outlets you go, whether it's the brew house, whether it's our outlets, hotels, WIP, sold out, you're talking about big operators. All these SOPs are in place. And if you compare that to some of the other places that I go to, certain mamak stalls, bazaars, smaller outlets where people are still free to scoop from a buffet tray that is laid out all day. And, it does get a bit frustrating. And we hope that organizations like Industry Connect can speak out for us and try to give us a fair play. rather than make it more difficult for us, you know.
Well, I think Dax, you've really addressed the elephant in the room here instead of skirting around the
Yeah,
issue.
that's
5
right.
minutes in, and we've gone right for the jugular there. Speaking about elephant, I'm also involved in the F&B industry with the restaurant and bar that's called Elephant Rock. So that's why the elephant connection there. But
Nice.
nonetheless, as a consumer, Jen, how do you feel? I mean, what's the sense you're getting with the F&B industry, especially when you're going out, for a drink to a bar or to a restaurant come bar, and just to sort of feel normal again? And how do you balance that out? I.e., what are your expectations from a restaurant or bar?
Well, so I think, from a consumer point of view, of course, if I look at it, is again, the first thing that comes to our mind is safety, right? In terms of social distancing in the bar, restaurant and bar. And, what are the steps taken in terms from the operators, right? So when I go into any restaurants, first thing I do is I observe. When another customer leaves, what do they do? And I have seen, trust me, many restaurants, and as rightfully said, Dex, the bigger brands are the ones that are very, very stringent, very careful with the SOPs.
I agree.
It's the smaller brands and unfortunately, the Marmaks and whatnot, that when you see someone leaves, they don't clean the table much, they don't use disinfectant. The cutlery trays are passed from one table to another, and stuff like that. So it worries, of course it worries me, as a consumer,
So
it
that's why I
worries
say
me.
it boils down to when we open a restaurant, we always go through a food handling course with the government,
Right.
just to apply a license. So I think the government should support us in terms of providing a COVID safety program.
Right.
Training the staff how to handle cutleries, how to handle safety procedures on the table, how to clean.
Okay, but sometimes that can be sort of a long-term process.
In every new restaurant, you have to do that. A refreshers course, and then we also send our staff for typhoid jabs. We can also work with clinics on how to get this COVID vaccines vaccinated to all the staffs.
So in the short term, or in terms, i.e. a shortcut, what can restaurants and bars do to eliminate that process of waiting? Because it does seem like it might be a chicken and egg situation.
That's right.
What can be done?
What have you been doing, rather?
We've been investing heavily in terms of disinfectants. We disinfect the outlets 3 times a day.
Right.
Every customer leaves, we disinfect the table, the chairs. We ensure that customers do not touch cutleries and whatnot.
Right.
And we try to guide customers not to share.
Yeah.
Food sharing, glass sharing, drink sharing.
Right.
You can pass viruses.
But can that not be? I mean, you're also in the F&B industry, right, Jesse, and Dex as well, right? I mean, can you not have certain guidelines or rules in the restaurant to the customers to say no sharing, no this, no that, and sort of thing, to also put in place, the do's and don'ts, for example?
It's almost like the F&B industry needs to come up with their own guidebook.
Yeah, in a way,
Exactly.
for customers,
Yeah.
right?
That's
For
right.
customers. To say, I mean, of course, we can say we don't encourage you, but customers are customers, right? I'm paying the bill.
Yeah,
I
that's
do
right.
what I want. But if you had some sort of a set of guidelines and say this is what is not recommended and is not allowed. I mean, there's a difference, right? Not
That's right.
encouraged, not recommended,
Yeah.
and not allowed. So can't the restaurants do that part and put in what's allowed and what's not allowed?
That's why we need to have, example, let's say Hapa or F&B Connect,
Right.
come up with a simple rule.
Right.
And we share to the
And we share
public.
to the
That's right.
right.
Simple and easy.
One
Okay.
thing to do
Right.
down there.
Right. Okay. So F&B
Yeah.
Noted.
Connect, either you've got lots of work
Dex, you wanted
do.
to add on to that?
Yes, I think like what you said, it's a fine line when it comes to telling the customers what you can do. Because Malaysia being Malaysia, you can recommend, you can suggest, but at the end of the day, it's a very fine line before, excuse the language, you piss the customer off, or some difficult customers do make a scene. However, I would like to jump in a little bit and expand on what Roger was saying. I believe if we were to wait for the government to come up with these guidelines, it's not going to happen. I think they got bigger fish to fry, and I think us, especially in the alcohol-related F&B side, I don't think we show up on their priority list. However, we've got great associations, many of which you are part of, Jen.
Yeah.
If we can pull together the industry people and we self-regulate, I think certain countries with associations, self-regulation does help, and we can endorse or certify everybody who's part of this association to say, okay, they have complied with our internal self-regulation guidelines. And
Right.
it helps, if not at all, to at least give a sense of confidence, a sticker out there to say this is Industry Connect or this is HAPA certified safe outlet or, something along that guidelines. And from there, it not only regulate in terms of the best practices, but you can also regulate in terms of, hey, can we get together as a group and decide, look, every restaurant should invest in X amount of sanitizers or X amount of technology. There are amazing technology that are available now that I have shared with you in the past, Jen, that, you can actually sterilize the air that you breathe. You can sterilize your surfaces continuously and things like that. I mean, of course, you can't force people to invest in this technology, especially in tough times, tough cash flow times like that. But it doesn't hurt to have some degree of self-regulatory guidelines within the industry.
Absolutely, I agree with that, Dex. I mean, the thing is, we are talking about we're talking about human behavior on both ends. In my opinion, you need to regulate the human behavior in terms of your customers' behavior. You also need to regulate the behavior of the staff. Like, you could have all the SOPs in place, but whether or not every single outlet practices that process of cleaning,
And in sync in terms
making
of
sure you do that, that's another story. But the fact that you're right, customer behavior, and that's the shift that we need to do. We need to educate. Somebody needs to start the game. Somebody needs to say, I'm sorry, sir, if you're not going to maintain your distance, if you're not going to stop the sharing, then I'm afraid that we can't let you in. Of course, you piss one off, you piss two off, but then at the end of the day, you get some regulations in place.
But here, I think therein may lie the problem as well. I think businesses are trying to fight tooth and nail for each customer. Every customer now matters, right? And especially if you're at home and you want to use Grab or Food Panda to get your food, even that customer matters right now. And so my question is open to all of you. In the new norm now, and the fact that we've seen during the MCO home cooking and everyone was baking bread or banana bread or even gourmet cooking to that extent, how will restaurants now adapt in the new norm? What is the strategy moving forward? Roger?
You see, in terms of the strategy moving forward, you have Food Panda, you have Grab. I think they shouldn't charge so high
in terms of
commissions. Help the smaller players grow. We should have a shared burden from the landlords to the suppliers and also to the food delivery companies.
The entire ecosystem.
Yeah, let's build a nation together.
What would be your
lift them up together?
What would be your suggestion if you could put some suggestions in place? What would be your
you see, when we go through the lockdown,
right?
We wrote to all our landlords. Some were very, very helpful. Some gave us free rentals, huge discounts. Some didn't even give you discounts.
Right.
I think there should be shared burden in terms of our landlord understanding the tenants. Help them, build them up together. Motivate them.
Right.
Instead of just taking money now and then today you survive, and what about the rest?
The rest of it, right?
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Suppliers should also come hand in hand. Like, we work very closely with Carlsberg. They are one of our biggest suppliers, and they came to our doorstep and say, how can we help you?
Right.
That's very important in terms of all the suppliers who come and say, let's lift this industry together.
Together, right?
We've survived so many challenges in life. And I think the people in business today needs help.
So I think the point that Dex also made that needs to be reiterated is that we need will within the industry within itself to enable these changes and to support other businesses within the F&B industry.
Right, right. What about Dex? I mean, what would your proposal be? What suggestions would you have? If you could put some suggestions forward, what would it be?
Specific to Miss Moderator's question on how we're going to adapt to the new norm, people ordering in, I think that's definitely true in the industry. We have seen a huge shift in terms of consumer behavior. However, I'm not too concerned on the fact that the deliveries become a competition. I think that market is not a zero-sum game. It didn't take from dine-in customers to move them into the homes. I think it just created a new segment So more people are spending to eat before, going out is a trip. Now I can eat out indoors. So I cook less at home. I do not think it impacts to the point that it's to a point of concern operators of F&B, because I believe humans, more so Asians, we are social creatures, we are social animal. It is really a big difference going out, sharing a cold beer or a meal with your family and friends, laughing over a glass of wine. I think there is no substitute for that. There's only so much you can do at home, drink by yourself, and they call that closet alcoholic. And you justify that by having a Zoom forum where you get
Haven't
everybody
we all been there since March last year? Haven't we all been there?
Yeah.
One weekend or another.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I just have a little bit of a
Exactly.
sidetrack question here. Bars is one thing because so we talk about there's restaurant license, and then you've got the bar license, the entertainment license. What about the clubs industry, the club sector? Do you think it will ever come back?
I think it depends how they change their concepts in terms of clubbing. I came up from clubbing before. And today we pivoted and changed according to the current climate. I think how clubs go into the future, they have to find a way, how to make it safe in terms of clubbing and how
This
people
also
socialize.
on set, as we are in the phase 2 of the vaccine program or the vaccine rollout as well.
That's right.
So do you believe, Dex and Roger, that, and Jen, please weigh in as well, that we are seeing some light at the end of this tunnel, that things will go back towards what we know as the old world charm compared to the new normal?
But it's about how do we control human behaviors. We like to open clubs, we like to open bars. But when people drink, they get out of control.
Yeah.
They start mingling, they start going tables to tables.
That's right.
That is
That's where
what's
the
the
issue
problem.
is.
Yeah.
I mean, Dex,
You
you're
know?
in the club business. You were in the club business, and do you think drawing boxes for people to stand and dance would that work?
Maybe a bubble.
Maybe a bubble. New ideas.
I think this is a double-edged question and answer of this. I think, look, let's face the facts. The whole spirit of clubbing is everybody gathered together, they're dancing around, there's some camaraderie, people are cheering, they're going on. Now, look, all of this, of course, will not comply with the SOPs. So theoretically, you won't see clubbing or anything similar to it of its nature coming back in the near future. The risk to that is where I said that it's a double-edged sword. People may be getting used to the fact that, hey, look, we've already found alternative hobbies or alternative ways in which to have a good time. You see a lot of smaller speakeasies, a lot of cafes, a lot of more social places still coming up to replace these clubs. So I'm actually, the verdict is still out for me on whether it will come back. Perhaps one day when the whole world is fully vaccinated and the strain hasn't mutated. But I think in the foreseeable future, I
see
really
it happening.
tough.
You
Very
don't see.
tough.
What about other countries? Are there
I think
other countries?
the UK
bars
were
are the
doing an
clubs?
experiment where they're going to have a rave party of 4,000 people.
Oh dear, what does it sound like
I
a
mean,
bad idea?
Taiwan did an experiment, a rave party of few thousand people.
Right.
They experimented on how the people can group together and still enjoy a party. And
Without-
what happens after that?
With less proximity?
Yeah, no
or-
proximity, yeah.
Okay.
I think now the US has gone into an experiment where those who are vaccinated can go outdoors without a mask.
Oh, so you're licensed to go out and...
I mean, the government are
party.
also confused.
True, agreed,
They
agreed.
don't know what's going to happen,
Yeah.
but
I
we
mean,
have
New
to
Zealand
create
just
experiments.
did a big concert, right? 50,000 people, Roger?
Yeah.
Just 2 days ago.
Exactly.
Right.
So then for restaurants and bars alike, many are still adopting a wait and see sort of, approach, like let's see what happens perhaps by September this year, by the end of next year, by the end of the vaccination program. What would you both weigh in to say about businesses hesitant to take that step, to pivot
But I
their
think now
business?
is that how do we bring the figures down? I think business owners got to be responsible.
Right.
Let's do social distancing in terms of tables, follow the guidelines, a meter away, distance from customers to customers.
Yeah.
Let's bring the figures down, and then we can
Yeah.
experiment. how
I'll be
how-
real, we are expecting a fourth wave, not to scare anyone,
Yeah.
but it does seem like it is,
Heading there.
on the horizon.
But the problem
it does
is
seem
we
like
have
that.
bars open that are fictitiously, act like a restaurant. Then you have GROs acting like waiters, going table to table. You have karaokes who are sharing mics. So things like that will,
Right.
elevate the pandemic even further.
Yes. So
You
it's kind of like a one apple spoils the whole basket thing, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah.
Exactly. So a
So-
few unscrupulous owners will not help the industry.
So okay, so
Is
for bigger brands like yours and Dex, and being responsible restaurant and bar owners, what are the steps that you think responsible bar owners should put in place, for example?
I mean, as bigger groups like us, myself, Dax, and many more, we apply, to practice good safety hygiene levels.
Okay.
I think also smaller business owners should also practice the same hygiene levels and safety.
And
making
if you
sure.
notice a flaw in the SOPs, then do you reprimand or do you correct? Or how serious are you
some
about it?
owners do business hidden.
Right.
You've got a hidden alley to go up, and try to get away from the authorities, things like
Right.
that, which will give us to the next lockdown, MCO 3.0.
Yeah.
And everybody suffers.
As you're talking about responsibility in terms
Yeah.
of operators and
So I hope
owners.
everybody works together, and let's bring this level down, keep it at a safe level, and then we can go forward. I mean, Taiwan has done it. I think we can do the same in Malaysia.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think restaurant and bars will it ever come back to pre-crisis market value?
It depends. I think many years from now, maybe 3-4 years from now, when everything comes down safe. I think even domestically there's a big market.
I think that's a great one.
Yeah.
Also, like what Dax said, through the crisis, we've seen that it's created a new pool of opportunity. And I go
Yeah.
back to what I said earlier, where, the silver lining. But truly, there is. And many businesses have mushroomed out of homes as well. We're looking at, mom and pop shops as well that are
Exactly.
doing so well, whether they're trending on TikTok or on Instagram. They have transformed in this MCO period. Dax?
Yeah, just to follow up on a bit on what Roger was saying, I think it is definitely correct that everybody needs to play the part to be more responsible. But I just want to be a bit of a rebel here, and I want to say, look, let's don't speculate. Let the numbers do the real talking. Yes, every industry has contributed to the rise of the numbers. But if we were to be really honest with ourselves, in the big scheme of things, in terms of a percentage, every known cluster that we've had in Malaysia, I would like to stick my neck out on stick out on the limb and says, I would think that the F&B industry per se is directly, less than 1 or 2% has been directly attributed to the F&B industry. These clusters come from other places, and I think asking the F&B industry to, hey, you guys, here's a cane. We're going to whip you into place. We're going to make life so difficult for you. You need to be responsible for bringing the cluster numbers down.
Yeah.
I view that as akin to saying, let's ban toothpicks to save the rainforest. I think we should address the elephant in the room, as you mentioned. Look, you're talking about Ramadan bazaars. I drove by one that day. You're talking at thousands of people, no SOPs, and the government goes out and says, all right, you can do it till 2 a.m. You've mentioned the smaller mamas that get to run and open till 5, 6 in the morning. I'm not complaining, and I think it's great that people can do the business. But the point I'm trying to make is I do not think, or I hope that the associations like Industry Connect and things like HAPA would actually stand up to actually voice out to say, look, for the most part, the F&B industry have been very responsible. For the most part, the data has shown that there isn't really any crazy clusters related to us. Yet, the toughest guidelines, the toughest regulation, and the toughest fines are being whacked upon us. I mean, you're looking at big functions that we all read in the newspaper and everything is fine. And a guy yesterday who's selling a burger out of his home is being charged $50,000, and he's just trying to sell some food. So to conclude, I really think, I hope it's not wishful thinking that somehow we can band together and let the authorities know, hey, look, you perhaps you might be barking up the wrong tree. The people in this industry are not responsible for the high numbers you see every day, yet you are trying to shift the blame into this industry, which is really, really, I believe, on the unfair side.
Well, it's my personal opinion that while we try to collate voices to shift mountains, it's also, as you've pointed out, it really does resonate with us. We need to take that responsibility and start making those little shifts in the meantime. Looking at the year ahead as well, what do you think will contribute in the recovery process of the F&B industry? And this is talking about your mom and pop, mamas, restaurants, bars and clubs alike. What is that going to entail?
Well, I see that people now, they've been through a lockdown for the first part and the second part. People want to experience dining. They want to go out, experience new things, socialize with their friends, with their families and all that. So these are new experiential dining that will come up. I think people have to find that new concept that, that is safe, secured, and how people can enjoy a good dining experience. Go into quality food, bring quality to the table. Look at profits later.
Right.
Let's bring good quality food, affordability to the people, and give them good service. Back to basics.
Yes, I was going
Right?
to. I was going to
Absolutely.
ask you about that. Because now everyone's so concerned about safety, about SOPs and guidelines and so on. And have we all forgotten what the important foundation of what the F&B and hospitality industry or tourism industry is? It's the service. So are we forgetting that? Are we forgetting to train our people that they're so robotic in terms of what to clean, how to clean, and then they absolutely forget anything and everything about service.
That's right.
So, that was one area I wanted to ask. And, your group, for example, and Dex's group, what are you doing in terms of looking into the service part?
I always tell my team of people, I say the staff that we have, we remind them daily the same thing. It's like our children. You keep reminding them the same thing. Greet your customers with a smile. Treat your customers well. Be friendly. Double check on all your orders. Your customers will return. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
That's how we preach in our brew house group in terms of all our.
I think that's such an important point. Jen, Dex and Roger as well. Really, the soldiers of our businesses are our staff, our employees, right? And they've also taken a hard hit as some other businesses may have to pivot or shut down as well. What do you do to sort of, spur up the morale of your employees to keep them still with the smile on their face?
Exactly. You feed them, give them good food. Treat them well. Now we build hostels that are safe. Give them a good, comfortable place to live, a nice, clean toilet to shower, a great place, a pantry for them to cook their food. We have different cultures of staff in our hostels working with us. They can't travel back, right? So I think we got to bring food that they like to them. Make them feel at home. If our staff is happy, our customers are happy.
That's right.
You see?
Yeah. Dex, what about your side? What are you doing in terms of keeping the service level at par?
I think a lot of our key staff has been with us from our first venture. Some of the staff has been with us for 12 years, and all of them have started out as waiters and now they're supervisors. I think it's about culture, right? One of the things that we always hold true in our briefings or training to the staff is that we're not selling a product. We're not selling food and drinks. We're selling an experience. They can drink the same bottle of wine anywhere they want to. They can have a similar plate of good food anywhere they want to. The reason that they're coming to you is that they have a good experience. They're there to pay for the experience, not pay for the product. Yeah. So we try to drive that motto through to the staff all the time. But then at the same time, when staff being staff and you're managing tons and tons of people, it is not necessarily easy to get everybody to buy into that concept or that philosophy. So we actually put things that are very measurable We monitor all the customers' feedback, any feedback on Google reviews, TripAdvisor, Facebook. We collate. I have an in-house audit team that collates the overall consumer experience, how many reviews we get, what the reviews are, and we actually incentivize the staff based on that.
Right.
So at all times they know that whether or not they like it, they are being monitored, and they know that they get incentivized if they get a good review. They know they get docked if they get a bad review. So much so that, if they don't buy into the culture, they are forced into that. But for the most part, I think all our staff has bought into the culture, and they understand what the company is all about.
I just wanted to tap into that a little bit. Since the MCO as well, and through this crisis, there's been a lot of emphasis on data, information, and crunching these numbers to really make sense in terms of prediction or even projection. Looking towards the future, of course, and perhaps the future is now, what about AI within the F&B industry in terms of 3D menu? You talked about experiential dining, about leading, they have this thing now where you sit at your place and you get this images and visuals of an experience or being in a certain place or location.
Like a virtual thing.
Like a virtual
like
thing.
A Hollow Man. Is it?
Yeah. And
Virtual reality.
what does that look like in terms
Exactly.
of, of the F&B industry?
Yeah.
Roger?
The rapid adoption of technology, right? Which is...
I mean, technology it's good to adapt, but the same people like us who invest in business, we must make sure it's affordable. You see, technology must be affordable firstly.
Okay.
We can afford it. At the same time, we can still turn a profit in terms of adopting technology and doing the business. We need a lot of help in terms of manpower.
Right.
Today, we don't see the locals coming out to work. Why are they not coming out to work? Because we must give them the fishing rod and teach them how to fish. The problem is we are feeding them fish and they don't go out and fish. You see? So I think the locals should come out and start striving hard, go into F&B, work, learn the basics, learn the knowledge, and grow with the business.
Right.
So the government must motivate that. Don't make us into a lazy nation. Do not bail them out. Do not give them the fish and stay at home.
Right.
Get
them to come
get them to come out.
Yeah.
We
Okay,
don't
but-
have enough locals coming into work.
But the thing
You
is,
see?
okay, can I also just ask this question, which has been, of course, something that has been labeled, unfortunately, to the hospitality and F&B industry, is that why locals don't work in these industries? It's because of the pay. That the pay is low and hours are long, and it's like a constant label. You ask any university students coming up from hospitality universities, are you going to work in a hotel industry or the F&B industry, and say, no, I'm not. Then why did you study this? It's like, oh, that's probably the easiest, or maybe nothing else to do or whatever. Or some actually do want to do it, but they don't want to work here because they've been late.
Look
It's
at
already
ourselves.
labeled.
Look at me and Dax and all that. We started from being a waiter, a dishwasher, a cook. And the day you can perform well, build a good business for the business people, I think you become a partner in the business. We want people with knowledge who can build a business. We are all getting older. We need the younger generations to come up. Am I right?
Yes, correct.
You see, so I
That's a
think,
good model.
I think people
I feel
should
like
look
putting up
forward.
my hand, but then I don't belong in the
People
younger
should look
generation.
forward and say, how could we be a partner? Like you work in an audit firm, you want to be a partner.
Yes.
You
Or
work
in
in
a
a
law
law firm, you want to be a partner.
Yes.
In the F&B world, we can be a partner in business.
Beautiful. I love
You know?
that.
In terms of new norm, does the F&B industry need a facelift? Do we need sort of a rebranding to come out and talk about what values? Because let's face it, Malaysians love makan. We will
Yeah,
not give
that's
that
right.
up for
Yeah.
anything.
Yes.
But yet we do see the direct impact, and that's perhaps because of external factors as well. So does the F&B industry need to be
Rebrand
rebranded?
itself.
Yeah.
I think the F&B industry is doing well. We have different brands, different food, different concepts. It's just that how do we go forward now is to at least not lose money, break even, stay alive. Let's go through this together. Get manpower to come in, get the industry, the people in Malaysia working, come back to work again.
Back to work.
The government can create a website where we can link business owners with with people who are looking for jobs, you know, so they can get a job fast.
Right, right.
You see?
Dex?
Yeah, let me answer your question. The root question of that was that how do we see AI or technology changing the F&B industry?
Yeah.
That's number one. And number two, how is the industry going to adapt now? I think it's all fine and dandy, and I love it. All these new tags and all this that we see, whether it's a robotic bartender or robotic waiter or some experiential videos and sounds and smell while you're dining. I think that's all great, but I want to repeat what Roger is saying. Sometimes you got to go back to basics. Now, all this is fine and dandy. These are all I call temporary gimmicks and just to have to separate yourself. But let me ask you: if you went for one of those dinners, you're not going back there as a second time. You went there to experience it one off. But people will still go back to their same favorite restaurants for tens of years. I mean, my family still goes back to the same Chinese restaurant for the past 30 years. I still go back to my same neighborhood pub, even though I own our own bar, because we are, like I said, we are social people, we are creatures of habit. So as long as your basics are right, your experiences, your brand promise lives up to what it says it is, and people have a good time, right? Going out to eat and drink, it's about memories. It's about good time. Oh, we had a great time last week. So and so got a bit tipsy, or we had a great conversation, or we had a great meal. It's always circles around family and friends in a social setting. And the F&B operators like Brewhouse or us, we all stand for a certain brand and culture. And people go there and they expect that kind of experience, be it from the service or the product. So yeah, I think technology can come into play, but I don't think it will ever replace the core basics. And if you can't get the basics right, you can sugar dust it and fairy dust all the technology and lights and sounds and bells and whistles. It's not going to make you a better operator.
Absolutely, Dex. I agree with that totally. So, it's been a really interesting session. We've come to the end of our restaurant and bar segment. Jessie, anything to add?
Well, not much, but I think we can outline some salient points from our discussion. Of course, back to basics, as both Roger and Dax have pointed out. From a consumer point of view, you'd also want to ensure that the restaurant or bar or hotel even that you're going to does adhere to SOPs. Customers want to see that. They want to feel safe as well. That's the mind shift that has happened. Empty bars and restaurants, that has been a sight, for about a year now, but we are going back towards normalcy, and we are seeing that it does seem like the F&B industry has been the sacrificial lamb, so to say, mainly because of bars and clubs, but that doesn't have to be the case moving forward if F&B players and owners take that responsibility to really adhere to SOPs.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So we would like to thank our speakers, Roger and Dax, for sharing their insights with us here on Hospitality Asia Channel. There is so much more to talk about as far as restaurants and bar segment, and we will be engaging more in our future summits, but do look out for our next session where we speak with two innovative F&B entrepreneurs on a new reality for restaurants post-COVID-19 and what must change moving forward. I'm Jennifer Ong.
I'm Jessie Chahal, joined by Roger and Dex, and we'll see you next time. In the meantime, stay home, stay safe, eat and drink well. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for having us. Take care, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you.